Good morning, students. How are you? I hope you all are fine and staying home to keep yourself safe from COVID 19. Students, in the previous module, we discussed about the classification of wildlife resources according to their different danger problem for their survival. So, here in this module, add to that topic only. We'll focus some more topic. So, let us see conservation of forest and wildlife in India. Conservation in the background of rapid decline in wildlife population and forestry has become essential. As you know, student, day by day, the species of plants and animals are slowly decreasing. So why do we need to conserve our forest and wildlife? So conservation preserves the ecological diversity and our life support system, water, air, and soil. It also preserves the genetic diversity of plant and animals for better growth of species and breeding. If their number is decreasing, of course the diversity will be in danger. For example, in agriculture, we are still dependent on traditional crop varieties. Fisheries too are heavily dependent on maintenance of aquatic biodiversity. So if this diversity will not be maintained, such things are not possible. In 1960s and 70s, conservation demanded a national wildlife protection program. The Indian Wildlife Protection Act was implemented in 1972 with various provisions for protecting habitats. An all India list of protected species was also published. The thrust of the program was towards protecting the remaining population of certain endangered species by banning hunting, giving legal protection to their habitat, and restricting trade in wildlife. Subsequently, central and many state governments established national parks and wildlife sanctuaries about which you have already studied in class 9. The central government also announced several projects for protecting specific animals which were gravely threatened, including the tiger, the one-horned rhinoceros, the Kashmir stag or Bengal, three types of crocodile, that freshwater crocodile, saltwater crocodile, and the gharials, the Asiatic lion and others. So these different projects for protecting such wild species are done by the government. Most recently, the Indian elephant, black buck, the great Indian bustard, that Godawan another name, the snow leopard, etc. have been given full or partial legal protection against hunting and trade throughout India. Now Project Tiger. Let us discuss some points about Project Tiger. Tiger is one of the key wildlife species in faunal web. In 1973, the authorities realized that tiger population had dwindled about, means from 1827 or 1827 from an estimated 55,000 at turn of the century, means 100 years ago their number was about 55,000, and that reduced to 1,827. So of course it was a very serious problem for the survival of tiger, and keeping it in mind, this project tiger was launched. The major threat to tiger population are numerous, such as poaching for trade, shrinking habitat, illegal hunting is done, and deforestation is reducing the habitat for animals. Depletion of prey base species, or whatever the means, whatever different species of animals are prey for these tiger, that number also has decreased. Growing human population, and due to growing human population, the human being acquired more and more land from the forest area used for cultivation, agriculture, and that way there was loss of habitat of the animals and depletion of some other animal species which was food for the tiger. The trade of tiger skin and the use of their bone in traditional medicines, especially in the Asian countries, left tiger population on the verge of extinction. So this was a problem existing with tiger. Since India and Nepal provide habitat to about two-thirds of the surviving tiger population in the world, these two nations become prime target for poaching and illegal trading of these tiger. The Project Tiger, one of the publicized wildlife campaign in the world, was launched in 1973, and the tiger conservation has been viewed not only as an effort to save an endangered species but with equal importance as a means of preserving biotypes of sizable magnitude, means their number also tried to maintain and increase along with some other animals. Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand, Sundarban National Park in West Bengal, Bandhavgarh National Park in Madhya Pradesh, Sariska Wildlife Sanctuary in Rajasthan, Manas Tiger Reserve in Assam, Periyar Tiger Reserve in Kerala are some of the tiger reserves of India. The conservation projects are now focusing on biodiversity rather than on a few of its components. Whatever conservation projects are nowadays held or created, in that it is not only for a few of the species, it is focusing on biodiversity so that more number of species of different plants and species can be saved. And there is now a more intensive search for different conservation measures. Increasingly, even insects are beginning to find a place in conservation planning. Nowadays, government and the other activists are trying to bring the insects also in this conservation program. In the notification under Wildlife Act 1980 and 1986, several hundred butterflies, moths, beetles, and one dragonfly have been added to the list of protected species. Of course, it is needed for ecological balance. In 1991, for the first time plants were also added to the list, starting with 6 species. Types and distribution of forest and wildlife resources. Even if we want to conserve our vast forest and wildlife resources, it is rather difficult to manage, control, and regulate them. In India, much of its forest and wildlife resources are either owned or managed by the government through the Forest Department and other government departments. So these are classified under the following categories. Here, one is reserve forest, another is protected forest, and unclassed forest. Reserve forest, more than half of the total forest land, has been declared reserve forest. Reserve forests are regarded as the most valuable as far as conservation of forest and wildlife resources are concerned. Protected forest, almost one third of the total forest area is protected forest, as declared by the Forest Department, and this forest land are protected from any further depletion. Means there is no further depletion accepted in such protected forest. In reserve forest, there is some encroachment, human encroachment, or the different uses of plant for different economic purposes are allowed up to some extent, but in protected forest that things are not allowed. In unclassed forest, these are other forest and wasteland belonging to both government and private individuals communities. So wherever such forests are there which are not coming in the reserve forest and protected forest category, that comes in unclassed forest category, which may be under the ownership of government or private individual or some communities. Reserve and protected forests are also referred to as permanent forest state maintained by per- for the purpose of producing timber and other forest produce and for protective regions. Here, government is taking proper measures to control the number of plant species. Time to time there is some cutting of trees allowed for collecting timber material, but that also in a proper way. Madhya Pradesh has the largest area under permanent forest, constituting 75% of its total forest. As you know, students, Madhya Pradesh is a plateau region. Mostly it is plateau region. So this way, this is having the maximum area under forest cover. Jammu and Kashmir, Andhra Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and Maharashtra have large percentage of reserve forest for of its total forest area, whereas Bihar, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan have a bulk of it under protected forest. All northeastern states and part of Gujarat have a very high percentage of their forest as unclassed forest and managed by local community. In these northeastern states, whatever forests are there that are considered as unclassed forests because that are not properly maintained by the government, not declared by the government, and that are as unclassed forest. But other these areas wherever the forest cover are there, that are properly maintained by the government and that are coming under the reserve and protected forest category. This was all about today's student. Here, time to discuss homework. One question is there from your exercise. Write a note on good practices toward conserving forest and wildlife. So this questions should be having about 120 word according to your question and according to CBSE pattern also. So try to find out answer on the basis of the textbook and this module or any other source of information. But you first try your own. Thank you. Have a nice day, student. We'll meet in the next module. Till then, bye bye, all of you.